$100.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code GOLD for an extra 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill-up. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, to PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code GOLD for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code GOLD for 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill-up.
It's where bold talk meets big laughs. The Rick Burgess Show, weekdays from 11 to 2.
The Rick Burgess Show, weekdays 11 to 2 on News Radio WGNS.
The Braves play here. Hey, this is Ben Ingram. You're listening to the Mid-States home of Atlanta Braves baseball. News Radio WGNS, Murfreesboro, Smyrna.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5.
Good morning, this is Bill Krause. You probably don't anticipate hearing me today, normally Thursday, but we're filling in for the normal host who is, we wish him the very best, recuperating from a health issue.
Yeah, John Blankenship, he said the surgery went fine.
Oh, good.
He had a gallbladder he didn't need any longer.
So he no longer has gall?
No, not anymore.
I gotcha. So here we are this morning, Friday the 13th, and every day is a day to be lucky, a day to be hopeful, a day to be optimistic, and a day to be happy. And to help make that is we have a colleague, a gentleman that many of you know here in the Murfreesboro area, Dr. Joseph Brasher, who is with the New Vision Church, and he has brought his lovely, lovely daughter, Abby, with us. Before we even go the traditional way, Abby, going into the 7th grade, is, quote, meteorologist, loves to do the weather, loves to talk about the weather. So Brian has put up on the screen a visual of the weather prediction. Abby, could you do a weather prediction for the folks of Rutherford County based upon the visual that Brian has put up for you?
Sure. It looks like it may be very rainy.
Go ahead.
Put an unknown caller, right? Calling about the weather.
Should I continue?
Sure,
yes,
please
yeah.
do.
Which way is it moving?
You're doing great.
It sounded like earlier northeast or...
Do I need an umbrella later today or this weekend?
Yes, you're going to need an umbrella.
Right, and my windshield wipers are going to go whoosh, 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 whoosh.
Maybe.
Wow.
It looks like it's heading more towards like Kentucky area.
There you go.
Wow. You know, do you find in your knowledge and education of weather, which you are very committed to, you find that a lot of times the weather coming from the west makes a detour to the north, east, as it comes to the Nashville area, Middle Tennessee area. For some reason, it just goes to the northeast.
Maybe it just likes it north.
Maybe it just loves Kentucky. Joseph, Dr. Joe, I'm going to just call you Dr. Joseph.
That's fine.
Why don't you initially tell about yourself, where you were born, a West Tennessean, true and thick out, and talk about your schooling, how you came to where you are, what you do, and your lovely 2 daughters, lovely wife.
Yeah, So I was born in St. Louis. My parents lived there for a brief time, and so Cardinals fan. So usually a lot of West Tennessee people are.
Sure.
I know this is a Brave station, so
yes.
It's all right. Y'all need Jesus too. So no, I'm just kidding. No, I was born in St. Louis and moved at a young age to Sharon, Tennessee. They don't say Sharon; they say Sharon.
Oh, like Lafayette and Lafayette.
Yeah, that's right. So lived there for majority of my life, and Sharon's just right outside of Martin, Tennessee, up in the very northwest corner, close to Reelfoot Lake, Union City area. And so went to Westview High School, went to UT Martin.
How many were in your high school? Small high school?
No, well, I'll just say Sharon Elementary and middle school, there was about 20 of us. And so it was one of those things where you really learned how to get along with everybody, because if you didn't, the next day you wouldn't have anybody to play with on the playground. So there was a lot of forgiveness that was learned, with those 20 people. And And it's interesting to still have, friends that I stay in touch with, even today, from Sharon. And so there's just a unique connection just kind of going through that, through that little town. And so...
is that cotton country?
A little bit. It's a little bit too far north.
Okay.
But you get down a little bit into where my parents were from, down around Jackson area, Gibson County. That's where you really start to see, cotton hit, more than anything else. But a lot of corn, a lot of soybean, a lot of pork farms.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of hog farms that are there. And so I think Weakley
People
County.
love bacon there.
Oh man, yeah. Of course, you have Tosh Farms that isn't that far away. You just have a lot of farming area that's there. So that was Martin area. Graduated with a degree in economics. We were talking about.
Oh yes,
you're economics guy. So
well, political science, economics, social science.
It all works together.
It
right?
does.
Yeah.
The world doesn't move unless you know where the dollar moves.
That's exactly right. Follow the almighty dollar.
Follow
right?
the dollar.
And so did that, and then I graduated from UT Martin 2004 and moved down to Tupelo, Mississippi.
So are you an Elvis fan?
I am. I like Elvis. I mean, you kind of grow up around, West Tennessee. You learn to like Elvis in that area, but grew up there and, or went to Tupelo for a little bit for about 9 months. I worked at a bank in their corporate headquarters and then got transitioned to Milan, Tennessee, which is Gibson County, north of Jackson area, and that's where I met my wife.
Wow.
And so we met in college and career Sunday school class. I was the career, she was the college.
College, okay.
And so I'm a proud product of finding a good spouse in Sunday school. So
that tells you the value of Sunday school.
That's exactly right. And so we just hit it off, and it was interesting for her. She eventually went to ultrasound school down in Tupelo, and so we were able to, just connect over that, and God just opened the door, for us just to get married in 2007. So
wow.
Labor Day weekend, 2007, and so we moved then back to Martin, Tennessee, and that's where we started kind of just setting up our lives. And I was still working in banking. Insurance at that time.
In all aspects, loans,
well, I
investments?
transitioned more into brokerage insurance and started to do that, and really focused in pretty heavily on church insurance. And,
so that was a linkage.
It was a good, it was a great market that was there. I'll never forget, I got a story about that. I remember I was selling insurance, and I went, and oftentimes what you would do is you would go and, you take pictures of the property, you go inspect a property before you would send in, for it to be rated. And so I went out to this little church out in the middle of Kenton, Tennessee. And Kenton is, kind of like Sharon, it's just, it's a little town, you just kind of drive through and everything. And so and this church in Kenton was one of these that you could tell they were pretty much only open on Sunday mornings. So
part-time pastor.
Right. And so I'm walking around, the inside of the sanctuary, and I come out, or I've been walking around the back, and I come out into the sanctuary, and a guy is just standing there looking at the altar. And I was like, oh, he's having him a, spiritual moment there. And, and I just quietly, just kind of came up and walked. And he said, what's that? And we looked down at the altar, and it looked at first like a microphone cord. But then the closer that we looked, it was a snake.
Oh.
So
a snake in church.
A snake in church. And so I clarified. I said, are y'all a snake handling? He's like, no. I mean, it was a joke. But, we ended up, we got rid of the snake, and I ended up writing that insurance. So I got a customer for life on that one.
You rescued him from the serpent.
We took the serpent out of the church, and that church has gone on to prosper. No, I don't know what's happened with that church, but that was all. That was a fun story. Just kind of some of the little things.
What a fantastic connection is that you were in insurance, and now your life's commitment is providing a new insurance of life.
That's exactly right. Insurance to assurance.
Fantastic combination.
Yeah. So
when did you know?
Yeah.
Or did you know, or can you recall?
Yeah.
That particular moment that said, "I've got a calling."
Yeah. So I had been on a mission trip to Nicaragua, and I was down there, and I had just gotten to teach and speak a lot that week, and there was just a restlessness that I just sensed while I was on that trip, and just a moment, just even kind of saying personally, with in prayer to the Lord, just God.
Were they a country in trouble at that time, both in terms of its national leadership, Ortega, and or post-earthquake?
No, this was around 2008.
Okay.
So, so I came back from that trip, and I just told my wife, I just said, hey, listen, I want to let you know, I feel like the Lord is drawing me in, towards vocational ministry, and we just didn't really know what that looked like, and there was a lot of conversations. The interesting thing for her and for us was her father, in 2006, he surrendered to ministry out of a sales background for a number of years. And so that kind of gave us some insight into seeing a little bit of the decision process, what all was involved in that. Now, his journey was different from mine, but that just kind of gave us, okay, let's really have some conversations. And he was just a great mentor through that moment, just to kind of talk through and say, okay, here's some of the things you need to think about with that. And so that was June 2008 whenever we had the trip, and I wouldn't really make it public to around November, December 2008, and we were just really wanting to be discerning. And so with that, I mean, after that moment was whenever I began to say, okay, I'm going to start in seminary while I'm still working. And I started doing Liberty online out of Virginia, and it was great just because I was able to keep on working. And we were ready to start a family. So we had our first daughter, Ellie Grace, and we had her in 2010, January 2010. I remember there'd be nights we'd lay her down for bed, Brittany would go to sleep, and I would begin studying and just walking around. In order to stay awake, sometimes I had to walk around my den reading a book, but that was just a sacrifice that you just made during that time. And so God opened the door for us to begin working full time in churches, and in a church. And luckily it was the church that we were already attending, Second Baptist Union City. And so that was a great experience. And then 2012 was whenever my famous Abby over here, hi, she came into the world and rocked our world. And it was
she a good baby? Oh, good. Okay.
Oh, she was fun. Abby and Ellie Grace, two totally different personalities, both fun. What's that?
Like night and day. Are you the night or are you the day?
I'm the day.
Day, all right. The sunshine in the morning.
Yeah.
The sunset in the evening.
But I mean, it was just funny just seeing their little personalities come out, and even just going back, we've gone back here recently and just watched some of the videos that we made during that time, and just
I'm embarrassed by myself.
Yeah. I'm saving those videos for one day.
Absolutely. Sweet 16.
Here it comes.
That comes out. Yes.
Here it comes.
I've got to ask you, the two of you, a question, and I thought about it all the way driving up from home. And it's a question that really, I guess I would call the foundation of my faith. What is the difference between faith and belief? Faith and belief.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to start out a weird comment. I have no faith, but I have total belief. And total belief because my dad taught me total belief on one episode. And I do have to share this with you because you are a family of God and so forth. And my dad was knowing he was going to pass in a matter of days. And I went to have my last visit with him up in his bedroom. And he said, I'm going to teach you the one lesson that every father should teach a child. I'm going to teach you without question, there is life after death. And there is heaven. So I said, sure, and you just want to make somebody feel good. And he passed away the following Friday night. So I'm looking for a burning bush. And I don't see a burning bush. And a week goes by, and a second week goes by. I see no sign that, yes, there's life after death. Well, it was a nice comment. I'm in my office. I was city manager of Norwalk, California at that time, city of about 100,000 in Southern California. And I'm at my desk, and one of my two secretaries, those were the days you had secretaries who took shorthand before a computer, before doing it yourself. Her name was Marilyn, and she came in. I said, Marilyn, I've got some dictation for you. So I was dictating some communications, and the phone rings, and it's a lady from a nonprofit organization that my dad was very active in. And she expressed sympathy and condolence for the loss. And she said, would you mind doing a story, an obituary on your dad for our newsletter? I said, I would be delighted to. So I hung up and I said to Marilyn, let's stop what we're going to do. I'm going to dictate a bio on my dad that you can send to this address. In the middle of it, a employee from another department comes in, and she's got a little ring box about that size, and she says to Marilyn, will this box do? And Marilyn looks at the box and says, yeah, that's fine, and she set it down on the desk. My eyes immediately were attracted to that little box, and it said Haley's on it, 8 Haley's on the box. Well, I'm in Southern California, and I'm 2,012 miles away from Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio, Haley's was the largest department store in that city, and it closed about 30 years before this date.
Okay.
So where that box came from, how it was stored, excuse me, I have no idea. And I looked at the Haley box, and I picked it up, and I suddenly almost was shuddering, because my dad's first job at the age of 8 years old was working at Haley's. And as a little child during Christmas, wrapping Christmas gifts. And he would always say to my brother and I, family legend, you know, if you boys aren't good, I'm going to send you to Haley because you can get your little fingers upset. Family legend. Well, I always ask my technology friends, what were the odds of that box showing up 40 years after the store closed, 2,000 plus miles away, sitting on my desk? You can't begin to compute those odds. There is no human computing skill that can go that far. So do I have faith? Nope. I've got belief, and that was the belief. That story actually served as a foundation because that was going back to 1976. Fast forward to 2006, and we had moved to Tennessee, living in Oak Hill, and the phone rings. And it's Marilyn, the lady that had taken the dictation. And I hadn't talked to Marilyn in a couple of years, and she had retired to Sioux City, Iowa. And she said, I just wanted to call because I'm stage 4. I won't be around this world too much longer, but I have to share with you that I have the strongest of belief, having seen your experience over 25 years ago with your dad. So, and she passed away shortly thereafter. So I guess where I'm going with this, I find a difference between belief, something that you've witnessed, something that you've seen, and faith. You hope it's there.
Right.
I don't have hope about the world after. I don't have hope about God. I have belief.
Right.
So how do you do faith and belief?
Yeah, I would say they're shaking hands because you have to have, you know, one with, you know, one and of the same, you know, in that, you know, because they're so integral together. I think about beliefs. You know, beliefs are those things that, you know, the truths that we know that form up our life, and there are still those things that are sitting out there that we would say are unseen. They're still those things that are sitting out there that we hope for, and we have hope with a strong belief, and that they come together. I think about it in this way of how our belief informs our faith. I think that's such a great way of what you're saying, is that they're so strong together that it's not that they're that I'm like just casually hoping that something happens. Instead, it's that perspective of seeing, I trust so much in what God and who God is and how he's orchestrating things, that it's not that I have to have this hoping in something unseen. I truly believe that that's where it is.
Absolutely. That's excellent.
And I think that's a great way, a great perspective, you know, to have. And I you know, sometimes maybe the sharpness of the semantics can sound like, well, you know, I don't have faith. Well, I mean, we all have faith.
I shouldn't put it that way, but you absolutely.
I mean, we're having faith right now that these chairs are going to hold us up.
Let's
Right?
not talk twice.
But what are we doing?
I fell off of one day.
Yeah.
Made a big hit on the radio station.
Yeah, but but that's again, what's that come from? We came to these seats and we sat down because we've seen it proven over and over again that whenever there's a chair that's there, that it's going to hold us up.
Absolutely.
And that's what I feel is kind of like what you're saying there, is that God has proved himself over and over and over again, that our faith and our belief should come together in such a strong way that they're acting in the same way. Now, I think there are some situations that people encounter, and they may not know the exact outcome of how things are going to be. And you know what they're doing in that moment? They're trusting God from a place of belief based upon not their feelings, but based upon completely what his word says. Because they've seen God's faithfulness over and over and over again. They've seen how he was faithful to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, to all the prophets, to the people, even whenever God didn't have to be. And he shows his grace to them over and over and over again. And even allowing the people, I think about, I was reading in Ezra this past week, and how God allowed the people to come back to the land. And what an act of grace that was, for him to even allow the people to come back, and all that set up, again, for the coming of Jesus Christ. And so, again, what are you seeing? You've seen God's faithfulness, and we're trusting in that. And so it comes along that even in those hard moments that we go through, that we don't know the outcome. And we know God's orchestrating it still, that those are those moments that we are exercising our faith. We're acting upon our faith and saying, God, I just don't know what this looks like, but I'm trusting in you, and I am putting my faith, not in faith, I'm putting my faith in you. And our faith is to be in a person, not in acts, not in ourselves, not in faith itself. Just like our belief. Our belief is to be in God and his word, not in our feelings, because our feelings will betray us. And people can be sincere, and they can still be sincerely wrong.
I love you can be sincere. Oh, I love that.
And so, I think that's just where sometimes belief in the right objective truth goes always beyond our feelings. And so that's where I would just say how, again, I see that they're shaking hands.
Yes.
And
maybe hugging.
And hugging.
Yeah, absolutely. A good big hug.
You got it. You're walking that journey out in that way. But for the person that's probably listening right now, that's going through that hard moment,
yes,
they're going through that struggle. They can't see the answer. They can't see what's this like. And in some ways, honestly, there's some people that are probably listening to this, and they're probably saying that they may not see the answer on this side of eternity. And so I don't want to give false hope. I don't want to give false faith, but I just want to say, keep trusting in the Lord. Keep trusting
your eyes
in him.
and open your ears, too.
Right.
We're going to take a quick break at this particular point, but Abby, I want you to be thinking, since Sunday is Father's Day, I want you to talk about Dad as soon as we come back.
Okay.
I want you, as a weather person, to talk about the prediction of Dad as a weather host, if you may. Are you stormy or are you sunny? Are you windy?
It depends on the day. It really just depends
We'll
on the
let that be. We'll be right back, folks.
When it comes to your home, memories and sentimental value are priceless. Farrah Construction can remodel your home, or we can update your kitchen, bath, or other rooms. I'm Ron Hall. If you can dream it, Farrah Construction can turn it into reality. Call Farrah Construction at 615-893-6120. That's Farrah Construction. I'm Ron Hall. Shop local. Let our family business help you. Farrah Construction Company.
I am Charlotte Gardner.
Why do you love Adams Place?
Gee, there are so many things, but I guess the choices. You can be as lazy as you want to be. You can be as active as you want to be. The residents are friendly. The staff is wonderful. You don't need to be concerned at all. It's up to you.
Hi, this is Terry Deal at Adams Place. Call me for more information about Adams Place. Phone 615-904-9111.
Adams Place on Memorial, across from Walmart.
First Shot, growing in Christ with life and athletic skills.
So we teach God's Word at everything we do to implant it in them so that they understand that the only way to get through the world is with God on their side.
First Shot founder and executive director Andy Herzer.
Our focus is on our inner city here at Patterson Park.
From academics to athletics, First Shot's focus is toward building a stronger, more courageous spirit to face opportunities and obstacles that our youth confront every day. To find out more about First Shot, go to firstshottn.org.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on. Visit CordellCordell.com to schedule your consultation.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Good Neighbor Events is brought to you by Old National Bank, the law offices of John Day, and AmeriCare Pest Control.
Here's Tom Sweat with AmeriCare Services Incorporated.
AmeriCare's moisture control services include mold testing, mold remediation, crawl space repair, vapor barrier, sump pump installation, radon testing, radon mitigation, and basement waterproofing. If there's something wrong in your crawl space or basement, we can probably help. Just ask for a free inspection.
893-7111. AmeriCare Services Incorporated.
Let's check those WGNS Good Neighbor events. This Friday's going to be a big day. Lightning bugs and lemonade. This Friday night, 6 until 9, over at Oakland's Mansion. It's an educational and fascinating evening of watching lightning bugs and learning about them. That's this Friday night, 6 until 9, at Oakland's Mansion. And also this Friday night, Main Street Murfreesboro brings back Friday Night Live, 6:30 to 9:30 on the east side of the historic Rutherford County Courthouse. Bring your lawn chairs and meet your friends. Enjoy some great music from Lisa Law and the Suspects. It's all free. Come early and enjoy dinner downtown. Don't miss Friday Night Live. Starts at 6:30. Don't forget, the Red Cross is still critically low on blood. Phone 800-RED-CROSS and make an appointment to give blood. Don't throw away Old Glory. Bring your tattered American flag to WGNS and let the girls from BSA Troop 2019 at Trinity United Methodist Church retire it with dignity. Plus, we also recycle Bibles. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
WGNS Action Line, talking with Rutherford County newsmakers about what matters most to you. Weekday mornings at 8:10 on News Radio WGNS. Now, here's your Rutherford weather forecast.
Showers and thunderstorms lightly today, tomorrow, and through Father's Day Sunday. Chances of rain range from 70 to 90%, highs in the mid-80s and lows around 70. Rain and storm chances will remain high through next week. I'm Abby Rusher with your weather forecast. Right now it's 79 degrees and cheerio.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. MTE's Plugged In podcast focuses on the world of electric vehicles. Stay up to date on the EV world, hear interviews with experts, and more. Listen on your favorite podcast platform or visit mte.com/pluggedin.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Hi, Bill Krause back here, filling in on this frivolous Friday morning with the Roundtable. And you just heard the debut on WGNS of a future weather lady who will be not only locally, she'll be national. You will hear her on the national weather and talking about cloudy and sunny and stormy. With the weather is a major item in Middle Tennessee. You know, population of people always want to know what's in the weather tomorrow. What's the old saying? If you don't like the weather today,
You'll like it tomorrow.
you like it tomorrow. So we're visiting this morning with two members of the Brasher family. And you just heard Abby make her debut in WGNS. Abby, Sunday is Father's Day.
Yes, it is.
This is the possibility for you to share with thousands of folks throughout Rutherford County and our neighboring counties what is so special about this gentleman sitting to your right.
He took care of me, and he loves me.
That is key, and you love him.
I do.
And what is so special? What makes him stand out, you know? Yes, we all love our parents. We love our siblings sometimes. And so forth. But what is so special about him? If he were walking down the street and you were with friends, you would say, I want you to meet my dad. And what makes him stand out as a very special dad?
He tries to get to know them, like, with my friends. And then, like, I have one friend, her name's Zoe, and, like, he'll be like, oh, what's up, Z? Or, like, he'll just pick on my friends. And it's, like, they all think it's a joke. Like, they don't think my dad's, like, cringy or anything. So
That's a huge compliment, to not be cringy to a middle school teenager.
At 13, 14 years old, I can imagine. You know, I think I put you on the spot with a question that probably 99% of preteens or early teens will say, now I love him, but I'm not going to tell the world about it. It's not cool.
I don't care if people know that I love my dad.
Hey, that is so key.
Oh, come on.
That is so key. You've been in Murfreesboro now, Joseph, how long?
7 years.
Wow.
7 years this month.
I got to go back and say when you were in seminary, decided to make, you were God's drive to make the transition.
Right.
Then you went for your doctorate.
Yeah, so right before that, we made the transition down to Millington, Tennessee, and we were at First Baptist Millington there, and we lived there for about 5 years, and I got to meet probably one of the most influential people in my life outside of my wife and family, my parents and in-laws, is Dr. Alan England, and he's been a mentor and now just a personal friend, but he was probably one of the strongest encouragements in my life to just say, you know, Joseph, you need to go and get your PhD. And at first I was even, you know, I wasn't even considering it. I'd done some interviews at different places, just didn't work out. And so he said, no, you need to do it. And so I began doing that. It was around 2016, spring 2016, where I started doing that Mid-America Baptist in Cordova, which is right next to Bellevue, you know, where the big three crosses are when you're coming into Memphis along 40. And so I was there, and took me about 3.5, right at 4 years, you know, to get that done. And so that means that I was defending, whenever we had moved here, 2018, I ended up defending my dissertation online because it was COVID.
Wow.
And so I had a sport coat and a bow tie and then shorts on. So,
boy, you got a shirt, hat, and shorts today.
We have a photo of him
so
outside,
living to the
like,
point.
Yeah.
What was your dissertation on?
So this always sounds fun, but the application of double loop learning to first-year freshmen at Carson Newman University in English 101 course.
How did you get into that topic?
Well, so
it sounds fascinating to me, but how did you get into it?
Yeah, so the main focus of what I was looking at was adult learning, and with the adult learning, I took a business learning model, which is called double loop learning, and double loop learning basically says, okay, there's what's called single loop learning, which is basically there's actions and consequences. You learn from your actions, there's consequences, and you just merely fix if something goes wrong. But double loop learning says, okay, we don't just fix what's going wrong, but we ask the question, well, why does this keep going wrong? And so it's a harder conversation to have, but and the reality is we all deal with this individually, is that, there could be those moments where, you know what, okay, yeah, something breaks down in my life, I'm going to just go fix the problem, right? I'm going to just do that. But if the problem keeps on coming back, and you might be able to tell where I'm going with this, but we all say, right, if you keep doing the same thing expecting different results, that's what? Insanity.
Exactly.
And so that's where that's what happens sometimes in the corporate world, is that you'll have businesses that will keep trying to fix the same thing using
they may not have identified the problem correctly.
Exactly. And what happens so often, this is the key, it's not just realizing there's an error, but so often we want to justify why we need to keep doing the same thing. And maybe it's worked before, but now the circumstances have changed, whatever. And
it's
so
simpler too. You don't have to create a new response.
Exactly. And so, but whenever somebody can move beyond justification and say, well, why does this keep on happening? That's when they get into this double loop learning. And what double loop says is, I've got to look at, what do I really believe about a situation? And if I can change what I believe about a situation, we all take informed action, and our actions come from our beliefs. And so if I can change what I really believe about this, like, it's wrong for me to act like this in my job. And I really believe that that's not going to bring about the best consequences of my life, then I'm going to change my actions, therefore I'm going to change the consequences. And so I merely looked at a population of students and I said, okay, you're in an English 101 course.
How'd you pick English?
Well, so the biggest focus on this is where some of the greatest evidence, this was a remedial.
Okay.
And so they were already coming into this with a lower standard of writing. And so what I wanted to investigate was basically, if I could introduce double loop learning to these students and the principles of it, could there be an improvement in their writing? Because I wanted to see, would they change what they believe about writing? And so I interviewed 9 students and ended up with about 50% of them that whenever they really walked through the process, it ended up being that it really helped them in their writing. Now again, I've not figured out, I don't have the silver bullet on writing by any kind of means, but it's just that was just my study to be able to take that, and then you take that and apply that in other areas. And one of the areas I just said probably where this would have the greatest impact, especially in the church, and probably in the world today, would be in counseling. And so again, so often when we come into counseling, you have people that will come in, they'll say, I just want to fix this problem, right? My marriage is broken. Tell me what I need to do to fix it. My kids are messing up, right? And I've got amazing kids, so this is
I can see that.
Wow.
Wow, that's right. And
it's
so,
Father's Day Sunday.
That's right. I'm priming up, right, for that.
Yeah, they said I messed up.
Huh?
I thought you said that sometimes I messed up.
No. You're amazing. You're amazing.
Yes.
But whenever we walk through and we say, okay, I don't need to just try and fix this situation, but I really need to try and change what I believe about the value of marriage, about my wife, my spouse, how to work through this, then that's going to inform the way that I'm going to act and respond. So that's kind of where that all landed at. And so my main focus was education, organizational leadership, but I've got a minor in church history and practical theology as well. So
tell us what you actually do, your role at New Vision.
Yeah, so I'm what's called adult pastor, and so I oversee primarily all of our groups ministry there, and we have a little over 200 groups.
Wow, and you have 4,000 at a typical Sunday.
Right,
wow.
And that goes over 2 campuses, and so that's we just have an amazing opportunity there just to help connect, families. And our big thing, we want to see people get connected into community. And so I really just kind of help to lead the team there and kind of, let's set the direction. This is kind of where we're going on this. And if you drive by New Vision, you've seen recently an updated, we have a new building that's there. And that new building on Sunday mornings is exclusive for young families because we wanted to provide a place for young families to be able to come in, have community. Their kids are cared for. They're growing in their ministries, in their areas. And so we give this moment for couples or single parents to come in and have a place for them to just grow in God's Word. And it's not your typical Sunday school setup because so often when we think about, Sunday morning groups or anything, and we don't even call it Sunday school, but everybody thinks about like, the black rows of chairs, sitting around.
Singing.
Right. Our setup is, each room is set up as a living room space.
Okay.
And so it's intentional to try and create an environment that's a little bit more open to conversations.
Sofas and comfort chairs rather
That's exactly
than
right.
straight
TVs,
back.
So coffee tables.
They're really comfortable, the chairs.
They are. They're really.
You don't fall asleep in them, I hope.
It's all about who's talking.
That's
if
true.
They're kind of bored. It is a comfy chair to fall asleep in, but.
Wow.
But then one of the other unique things that's cool there is we have a rooftop turf space, and it's a completely open space, and we have a lot of our staff and church members that'll come up during the week, and they'll just come up and enjoy lunch, up there on the rooftop. We have tables and chairs that are set out, but I think it's like one of two in all of Murfreesboro.
Have you used the analogy by having that ceiling or that roof? It's a magnet for God to visit.
No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. God is going over the earth.
Yeah.
And he suddenly sees this oasis
in
Murfreesboro.
There it is.
And says, here we are. I'm going to make a stop
really
there.
pretty at sunsets.
It is.
My dad took some photos of me.
Yeah. We've been up there before during sunsets, and it looks it looks out over the Stones River battlefield.
Okay.
And so I've got to get a connection there somehow with I would love if somebody's listening to this from Stones River battlefield. We would like to be able to say what are some of the points that we're looking at across the battlefield. So hopefully that could be even historical.
Absolutely.
And that would be an encouragement for families to come up and use that space and to look out and say, oh, okay, well, that's where that battle happened, or this is where this occurred. And because you can look through the trees, you can see the cemetery that's there as well. And so it's really a beautiful
That's a wonderful
look.
invitation. If there's anyone out there that has certainly been tracking family history and being able to track history to a person who lost their life at that location, 140, 150 years ago,
right?
That would be a terrific point of view.
And I mean, it just, I think to tie in, just all that to the community, we don't just have a rooftop space there that's for our enjoyment, which is, it's nice. It's a beautiful space. It's, everybody jokes, it looks like a big putting green up there, but, but to be able to say, okay, this is what, this is how we could connect to the battlefield and just the significance that's there. I think that would be just really unique. And so we're looking forward to that and, providing that experience. And we love going up there as a family. And
there's cornhole.
There's cornhole up there.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
okay.
It's just really a unique space. So that's what I get to do at New Vision. And we have marriage events. We have next March, we have a large marriage conference. We're going to have Gary Thomas. And Gary Thomas is a nationally known marriage speaker. And so he'll be coming in. And so we just try to really take care of families as much as we can, because we want to see families disciple one another, grow with one another, and that's what God is just really focused on, the individual, but the part of how they're in a family. And sometimes that may be that they're single, and we want to provide a community experience for them, and as well as the parents, the nuclear family that's out there.
I could see a reaffirmation of vows. And I could see a couple with their children taking the vows as a family.
I'm doing that in July.
Are you?
One of our
why
first,
am I not surprised?
One of our first ones is going to happen there in July.
Wait, so someone's getting married on the rooftop?
They're doing a recommitment.
I don't know if that
So like they're going to do their vows again, kind of like it's their anniversary, and so it's really going to be a cool experience.
Well, and before you take the break in a moment, that was triggered off by when my daughter was planning her wedding, and I said, I'm not in agreement with the old tradition that the father gives away the bride. I think the family gives away the bride.
Right.
And I want the opportunity for our daughter to walk down the aisle with her mother on one side, her father on the other side, and her siblings walking behind.
Oh, that's
so
neat.
It's a family joining another family,
Oh,
bride
yeah.
and groom.
Right.
Make it a family event.
Right. Yeah. And that was part of Pastor Brady's vision, with that space is that we, today, where you hear of a wedding, everybody asks, well, what barn is it at?
Oh,
and my daughter works at, one of the barns, here locally.
White Dove Barn in Bell Buckle?
Right. And it's a great experience, for that. But, to have a places where, we were married in a church, kind of bring a little bit of that experience back to the church, I think would be a great opportunity. So that's a little bit of where we want to have a place where it could be unique, a setting, location, and families can enjoy that together. So we're excited about it and excited about just the opportunity to continue to minister to families there.
That is great. We'll be right back after these words from the people that pay the bills.
When the weather turns bad, minutes, even seconds matter.
This is an early heads up for southern Rutherford County.
Rutherford Weather brings you live radar and expert meteorologist insight, giving you the early heads up when storms threaten.
A lot of areas are going to see some impacts from this storm.
From analysis to live camera views, we keep you informed before, during, and after the storm.
I think the vast majority of the hail with this now is going to be quarter to perhaps golf ball size.
Rutherford Weather. Stay ahead of the storm.
Did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app? We thought of you. All of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Malcolm is a listening learner, so he checks with Babbel's speech recognition to be
Precio.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your RV, RV wins.
What, are you going to take the RV to the lake or clean out your closet?
RV wins!
Putting the dishes away or taking the RV camping?
RV wins!
Cleaning the fridge or taking a trip to the beach?
RV wins!
You might want to clean the fridge real quick because, mold.
We clean out the fridge, then take the RV out.
With Progressive, you can bundle your RV with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings in your RV. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states and situations.
It's your captain speaking. To the passenger with the Mirror Fast soft shoes, smart move.
No way am I letting travel constipation ruin this trip.
Can't blame you. Mirror Fast works fast, but without the harsh side effects.
Since I'm such a smart traveler, can I move to first class?
No. Close the curtain, Carol.
From the makers of Miralax, new Mirafast soft chews work naturally with your body in as little as 30 minutes to give you a comfortable go on the go. Look for Mirafast at Walmart today. Use as directed for occasional constipation. Contains magnesium hydroxide.
This is a paid legal ad.
You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide a free initial consultation because we understand that folks don't want to pay a lawyer only to find out they don't have a case. If you think we can help, we do so on a contingency basis, which means we only get paid if you do. Seriously injured? Call me, John Day.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Bill Krau's third and final segment on this frivolous Friday morning, and we're having a delightful visit with Dr. Joseph Brasher and one of his two lovely daughters, Abby, and let me raise a question, and I raise it more as a political scientist in classes that I teach, but I raise the question, how do people retain their footing in a world today that is changing every moment? As a political scientist, I have to stay on top of all the news events and news activities. And I got to almost be totally honest that this is the toughest that I have ever had it in all my years of political observance. I got home yesterday after our lunch and was taking a quick break before I hit my desk. And here's this whole episode of this U.S. Senator attempting to break into a press conference. And I'm watching that. And then we see what's happening in Iran and so forth. I said, how do we keep on top? How do we maintain our base as a human being?
Yeah, I've got a story to share to get to that, if I can.
Time is with you.
I had an amazing experience. In fact, probably this would now be 2 weeks ago, and there was a young person that passed away in our community, and they were from an African background, and I had the amazing privilege, to be able to go and help and minister to the family, speak at the funeral, and there was this moment where this matriarch for the family, she arises and she speaks and does this amazing statement, and it's just stuck with me. And she's standing there and she's just saying, she goes, in all of our homes, we teach African values. And the moment that your children walk out the door, they're encountering values that are so countercultural to who we are. And I that statement just stuck with me, because I said, man, that's so true
of any family.
Yeah. Especially, I would say, from the Christian perspective of, in our home, we teach Christian values, and in the moment that our kids walk out the door, we're dropping them off at school, the reality is they're experiencing, in a lot of ways, a world that's counter to those values. And I would just say the answer to that, a couple things. One is keep teaching your values, because and show how the values are not tied to you individually, but they're tied back to what's true, which is God's word. And so I want Abby to yes, listen to what I say, but I want her to also listen more to what God says, because that's all. I'm going to mess up as a dad. Have I messed up as a dad before? You could say it.
I don't know.
Yes, that's the nice way of saying yes, you have. But the reality is that I have. Like, I've messed up. I've had to go and apologize about different things.
Yes.
Right?
But you're human.
Right.
And you have the opportunity to apologize, which many people don't do.
Right. And so to be able to say that and to say, I don't have this all figured out, every day is a new day with our children. But if I could take them back to what's true, that's what's so important and objectively true. But then, the other thing about that, I would say, especially in this political environment, is keep the right perspective. We can get so caught up in what's happening here and now that we lose the eternal perspective. And I'm not saying that we become so eternally, we keep the eternal perspective, but we learn how to see things from an ultimate, God is working this all out for his glory. Even when we may not understand it, we may not know what's happening politically, and we even see sometimes the stunts of politics.
Yes.
And sometimes I think that's why it's called the political show.
They're now calling it the theatrics.
Yes. And so you see somebody that they're taking stands, and there's certain things that, yes, for justice, for righteousness, that we are all to stand up for. But we can also see sometimes whenever it's the stunt that's behind it. And it's like, I'm just doing this for posturing. I'm just doing this to try and make my point. And I think that's where the eternal perspective helps us to say, okay, I'm focusing on the Lord. I'm focusing on this. I'm going to stand up for what's right, for what's just, what's fair, according to what God's word says. But I'm not going to get caught up in the minor things that we can so often get caught up in. I'm going to just kind of stay the course, keep teaching our kids values, and to stay that same kind of course. Because that was like my father growing up. I mean, just the testimony of him was he was just a solid, just faithful man. And, he didn't live just a big lavish lifestyle, we just didn't grow up in a big lavish life, but, he was just a faithful man. Mm-hmm. And to see I just want to be a steady rock in the midst of all this stuff, not get caught up in all this. Yeah, we interact in the right things. So I think keeping those things, keep teaching your values at home, even when the world may not agree with them. They're more and more, the way the world's going, they're not going to agree with them. But you keep teaching those values and you keep the eternal perspective. I think that helps us to navigate those political waters.
Well. And a good way to go it, and I think probably one of my greatest challenges of life as an educator, is to create and hopefully implement an optimism among young men and young women. Are you hopeful and optimistic, Abby, about the future?
I do not know. So far, I have no idea, because sometimes it's like, oh yeah, that looks good. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm kind of scared. So it's kind of like a mix of both.
The world in the future. I think of a story that I just can't get out of my mind. 2 years ago, I was working, as I'm doing this summer, in the inner city, and I was with a group of 6 and 7 year olds to get them creative thought. And I asked the group to write down, where do you expect to be in 5 years? Yeah. That's a double of life. And a little girl, 6 years old, comes up to me. She says, I don't know if I'll be alive 5 years from now. She said, I live in a neighborhood where there's drive-by shootings. There's shooting in the house. I don't know if I'll be alive. And I thought, a baby, 6 years old, without a optimism of future, just survival of future. Will she make it by the time she's 11 years old? Yeah. And I thought, that's a tragedy of life, that we better darn well do whatever we can to change it.
Yeah, and I think about for Abby, we talk about, the goals that she has for her life, right? Because one day you say you want to be a what?
Meteorologist.
Yeah.
It's been like a lot of stuff. Like I want to be a teacher, I want to be a meteorologist, then I want to be real estate, and now I want to be back to a meteorologist. It's like
all together at the same time.
It was that different.
Teaching meteorology.
Yes. And selling real estate.
Selling real estate. Yeah, but that's keeping a positive, futuristic perspective for her. Of you've got to see what's ahead. And keeping that goal in front of you, what's it going to take for you to get there?
You just raised, Abby, a fascinating point, and it's part of life. It's part of life. Let's suppose you're a very successful real estate person, and you check the weather forecast to see what the weather is like tomorrow in order when you're going to show a prospective buyer a house. And does the quality or the content of weather mean something different depending upon how the client is going to look at the house? If it's a beautiful 72-degree sunshine day, nice breeze going, is that going to change the behavior to look at the house versus it's cold, it's windy, it's rainy, it's just nasty, and you're still meeting them out at the property? So weather can play a role on, quote, behavior. And I can tell you, if I wake up in the morning and I'm going to a class, and the weather that day will tell me,
right,
what kind of class they had, an extra hour to get to school because of roads being blocked.
Right.
I want to thank the two of you for joining us, the Brashear family, who bring not only faith and hope, not only optimism and kindness, but it is this message that certainly we want to have millions of people make it an integral part of their life. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the quick response. This was a quick fill-in. We appreciate you. our very best, Abby. Do great, not only predicting weather, but I'll give you another one, predicting life.
There you go.
See you all later.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.